Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to today's video. The topic of this video is going to be college basketball. So if that's not something you're interested in, you might want to skedaddle. Otherwise, stick around because that's what we're going to be talking about. And I want to apologize in advance if there's any audio issues in this video. My computer's been making a lot of noises lately. I think it's going through puberty. It's trying to change from Windows 7 to Windows 10 and all of this stuff. I'm trying to coax it through this difficult time. However, I can't figure out the audio issues as of right now. I don't have a lot of soundproofing in this room. There's some weird water noises going on in the walls. It's just been giving me a headache, so I wanted to let you know in advance. Last thing, I'm doing a college basketball bracket tournament challenge for the third year in a row. Links to all of that information in the description. If you're watching this beyond March 17th or 18th, it's probably too late to enter. I uploaded this video on March 14th, 2016. So you still have time to enter if you're watching it on the day I uploaded or a couple of days after. If you're going to enter, there's prizes. I don't know what the prizes are yet. I will either put them in the description or announce them later. For first, second, and third place, probably is how I've done it in past years. And most importantly, if you're going to enter, you don't need to be from this country, by the way. You can be from another country and just guess the names and hope you get lucky. But if you're going to enter, please put your Twitter handle or your Twitter username as the name of your bracket or somewhere where I can see it, so if you do win something, I can contact you. Because for the first time last year, I ran into an issue where the first place winner could not be contacted. I did not find the person's Twitter username, and you can't message people through the website, ESPN.com. So I couldn't figure out how to contact that person. They didn't get a prize, which is unfortunate. Actually, it saved me money, so I scammed them. So just please have your Twitter username somewhere where I can contact you and not scam you. Now on to the bracket. We have the bracket right here, the official NCAA tournament bracket presented by Reese's. In case you're wondering, the official candy sponsor of the NCAA. I didn't know that. And my Final Four mug here. I went to the Final Four for the first time last year. It was in Indianapolis. It was a great Final Four, except for the fact that my team, Michigan State, got killed. That part wasn't fun, but the semifinal between UK and Wisconsin, Kentucky, sorry. I don't know why. I just looked at the thing. I was like, oh, UK. Kentucky and Wisconsin, that final game was a great one, and the championship game between Duke and Wisconsin was pretty good. But Duke turned out to be the dominant team, and then all of their players left to go to the draft, as per usual for good teams in the tournament now with young talent. I'm going to start talking about the South bracket, then the West, then the East, then the Midwest. As my bracket falls down, I do want to let you know off the bat, I have a bias towards Michigan State because I'm a huge Michigan State fan. I grew up in and around East Lansing. I went to basketball camp with Denzel Valentine and his brother. They were much better than me at a much younger age, and my cat is screaming at the door, so I'm going to let him in. Did you want to say something to the people, Finn? Did you have something to say to them about college basketball? You have any thoughts on the topic? All right. Who are you going to pick? Here, Finn, look at this. Who do you think? We got the 1 seeds, Kansas, Oregon, North Carolina, and Virginia. And then some strong 2 seeds, Michigan State, Xavier, Villanova, Oklahoma. Buddy Hield. Are you a Buddy Hield fan? Do you want down? Are you upset that I'm doing this to you? Okay. So, I'm biased towards Michigan State. I don't have any more knowledge than a slightly above average fan. I've seen all of the Big Ten teams in the tournament play more than 3 times. I've seen the big marquee schools play multiple times. However, I'm not going to have some great analysis for Hampton or Chattanooga. So if you're coming here for that, I'm sorry. I apologize. We're going to start with the South region, then go to the West, then the East, then the Midwest, and finish out with the Final Four and the championship game. So first, in the South, Kansas is the number 1 overall seed. However, this has been a year in college basketball where there's been a lot of parity. There's no dominant team, and to be the number 1 overall seed doesn't mean as much this year as it might mean in previous years. Kansas has a difficult second-round matchup, in my opinion. Colorado and Connecticut are going to play. I believe Connecticut is going to win, and Kevin Ollie, the Connecticut coach, is championship tested. He won a few years back with Kemba Walker. However, there's no Kemba Walker on this UConn team, so I'm not saying that UConn is going to upset Kansas in the second round. I'm just saying it's a tough test when your second round matchup is against a championship tested team like Michigan State has against Syracuse. but Carmelo Anthony's not on the team. So just something to look at. And then the third round matchup will be very interesting as well, because Maryland and South Dakota State and California and Hawaii are all potential third round matchups for Kansas. I believe it will be either Maryland or California, and both of those teams have draft talent on them. By that I mean players that are going to play in the NBA. Jaylen Brown for California. I have not seen any Cal games this year, so I don't have any analysis on them, but I just know from looking at mock drafts that they have a player that will go to the NBA. And for Maryland, Melo Trimble probably hurt his draft stock by coming back this year, but I think he will still get drafted sometime either next year or, I don't know, in his future when his eligibility for Maryland is up, or before that. And Diamond Stone for Maryland could get drafted next year. Will probably leave after this year. So when you're in the tournament and you're in the third round running into draft talent, that is going to be an issue for Kansas. I still think they can win. Maryland has some chemistry issues. Again, I don't know anything about Cal. Miami can make a run, but they're going to run into issues when they see Iowa and Villanova somewhere in this region. I picked Kansas to come out of the region. Do I pick Kansas? Yeah, overall, I think Kansas is going to win. However, I don't think this is the easiest region in the tournament. I'm not saying the number one overall seeds should always be in the easiest region. There's just a lot of potential pitfalls along the way, so it's going to be really interesting to watch games in that region. Now on to the West region. Oregon is the number one seed. Apparently, they ran through the Pac-12 this year. Again, I have not watched many Oregon or Pac-12 games, so if you're a Pac-12 fan, you might be very upset at my analysis for this bracket. I've seen Texas play. That's a very interesting 6-11 matchup, Texas and Northern Iowa. Shaka Smart has had an interesting first year at Texas, a couple of big upsets, but a team that struggled to win some games that it should have won. So they are a potential spoiler for some teams that they're going to see later in the tournament, like a Texas A&M matchup in the second round would be a really interesting game I'd want to watch. It's going to be in Oklahoma City, so the energy in that building would be crazy. Pretty close, well, I mean, relatively close for both fan bases to go there and watch the game. Oregon State, I like Gary Payton Jr.'s dunks, so that's all I'm going to say about Oregon State. Gary Payton Jr. has sick dunks. And Oklahoma with Buddy Hield, potentially the best college basketball player in this entire tournament, is in this region. So a lot of excitement in this region. I look for Oklahoma to move on all the way to face Oregon in the West Regional Final. I think Duke is a team that could find itself in the tournament with a top 5 talent like Brandon Ingram on their team. You can't really count them out. However, that Oregon team, like I've heard, is supposed to be very good. That would be a really interesting Sweet 16 matchup between Duke and Oregon. The Texas teams and Oklahoma at the bottom of the bracket should all fight it out for this Elite 8 spot between, I believe, Oklahoma and Oregon. I'm going chalk there. But I'm picking Oklahoma to go to the Final Four out of this region because I believe that star players will step up at times of need and Buddy Hield will go insane during this tournament. So I look for Oklahoma to be in the Final Four and Kansas matching up against each other for a spot in the national championship. Let's go to the East now. The number 1 seed in the East region is North Carolina. The number 2 seed is Xavier. I think this is one of the more difficult brackets to analyze because there are some misseedings in this bracket. Would that be the proper term? Misseeded teams? Underseeded teams, maybe? Not sure. But Indiana won the regular season in the Big Ten, and they got a 5 seed. Michigan State did not win the Big Ten regular season, and they got a 2 seed. So Indiana got a little screwed, in my opinion. Another team that got screwed is Kentucky. They're a 4 seed, and they beat 3 seed Texas A&M in the SEC championship. I'm not saying they got so screwed that it's a crime against humanity. And I really like John Calipari's analysis about being underseeded. It doesn't hurt the team that's underseeded. It hurts the teams that were seeded higher than them because Kentucky is supposed to lose to those teams, but they might not. It's going to make for a very interesting East region. I believe momentum is a factor, and that's why I have my eye on Kentucky in this region. North Carolina is also a very hot team, but you're always going to have your eye on the number 1 seed in a region. Kentucky just won the SEC championship. They have the Hall of Fame coach. They have the pro-level talent, and they are finding their way at a very dangerous time for the teams that they're going to face. Indiana, Kentucky would be probably the best second-round matchup that I can see. Maybe Texas A&M would be on par for an interest level of a game, but I would be super interested in watching a Kentucky-Indiana tournament game. And the Sweet 16 matchup between North Carolina and Kentucky, should both of those teams make it this far, would be amazing. Providence is also going to be a potential spoiler for North Carolina. I don't think they can get it done. They don't really have an inside presence, but they might have the best backcourt in the entire tournament because Chris Dunn is a great point guard. So that's something to look for. West Virginia has a stifling defense. I hate watching teams play against West Virginia because of how active they are on defense. It's very difficult to score against them. You can get it done if you run through the motion a little bit, but they get their hands on a lot of balls, if you know what I mean. That was great analysis. But that's going to be an interesting bottom half of the bracket. However, I believe that the Final Four team out of this bracket is going to come off of the top teams right here. North Carolina, Kentucky, and Indiana are the ones I see competing. I'm sleeping on Xavier. I will admit, I'm sleeping on Xavier. If they make a run, my bad, Xavier. I'm sleeping on the Mustangs. But I think the team that's going to come out of this bracket, I just want to say Kentucky. I want to say Kentucky. The evil empire, right? Who wants to pick them? But I don't know. The North Carolina-Kentucky game is going to be so good. I hope both of those teams make it to that game. And I think Kentucky can make it out of this region. They're finding their way. Tyler Ulis and the other guy who I cannot think of right now that is very good at scoring. Is that stupid? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. But that's my analysis of the East region. Kentucky in the Final Four. Kansas and Oklahoma on the other side. Let's go to the Midwest region where my Spartans are playing. Virginia is the 1 seed. Michigan State is the 2 seed. And there are a lot of teams in this region that I do not have analysis for because I have not seen Hampton, Texas Tech, Butler, Little Rock, Iowa State, Iona, Seton Hall, Gonzaga, Fresno State, Dayton, or Syracuse, or Middle Tennessee State play any games this season. So this is the most unknown region for myself. I'm not seeing much competition for Virginia until they get to maybe facing Purdue or Iowa State potentially in the Sweet 16. Again, I don't know much about Texas Tech or Butler, but I know a lot about Virginia's stifling defense. I really like Tony Bennett as a coach. So I think that Virginia can pretty easily make it to the Elite 8 if they can get by Purdue and or Iowa State. For Michigan State, I also don't see much difficulty. I'm getting a call from Grand Prairie, Texas. This might be Shaka Smart, so let me answer. Hello. It was a stupid phone robot who wanted to give me a credit card, so no thank you. But back to what I was saying, Michigan State will have a tough matchup with a hot Seton Hall team or a Utah team, which has that Jakob Podol guy, very tall center, who has a great post game. And Michigan State has Deontay Davis, who is going to get drafted either this year or probably next year, but he's younger and not as refined in the post as Sir Jakob. So that should be a tough matchup in, what would that be, the Sweet 16? Yeah, and then we're looking at a potential Virginia-Michigan State matchup for the 3rd year in a row in the tournament. Izzo is 2-0 in those matchups in the tournament over the last 2 years, looking to make it 3-0. But this is Malcolm Brogdon's senior year. This is Denzel Valentine's senior year. Malcolm Brogdon versus Denzel Valentine in the Elite 8 for a chance to go to Houston would be such a nerve-wracking game for myself as a Spartan fan because I know how badly Tony Bennett and Malcolm Brogdon and that whole Virginia squad must want to beat Michigan State after losing to them 2 years in a row in the tournament. That's a tough out for the Spartans. I think they can get it done. I hope I'm not jinxing myself by choosing Michigan State to go to the Final Four. Biased fan. So that is my analysis of the Midwest region. In the Final Four, I have Michigan State versus Kentucky and Kansas versus Oklahoma. On the left side, man, how great would it be to see another Kansas-Oklahoma matchup in the Final Four? What was that, a triple overtime game earlier in the season? Buddy Hield went off for over 40 points, and Kansas was eventually able to pull it out. Would they be able to pull it out again, or would they leave it in there and impregnate the Sooners? I didn't think about this very hard before I made the video, so I'm kind of going along and choosing these things as they come to my mind, just letting the energy flow. I'm going to pick Oklahoma to pull it out. Buddy Hield, and it's going to be a shootout. Wayne Selden and Kansas, super athletic. And then Perry Ellis III is 75 years old. He has that senior leadership, that senior citizen leadership. But I just think it would be a great game, picking Oklahoma in a coin toss to go to the national championship game against Michigan State. I'm sorry, Kentucky. I'm sorry, Kentucky. If I was a Kentucky fan, I would have picked Kentucky to roll. But Michigan State has the senior leadership. I think they have the least weaknesses of any team in the entire tournament. They have shooting, they have rebounding, their assist to turnover ratio is amazing. Best offensive team in the tournament, but they also play defense. Tom Izzo's teams are predicated on defense, so they're going to lock in when the time is necessary. Michigan State versus Oklahoma for the championship. Who do you think I'm going to choose? Michigan State. Ripping that tournament apart and tearing through the competition. Buddy Hield versus his friend Tum Tum Nair and Bahama Boys. But Tum Tum isn't as good as Buddy Hield, by the way. I'm not saying they're matching up against each other or they're even close to each other in terms of a talent level, but they're just from the same area. Denzel versus Buddy for the championship. Give it to Zell. Give it to the Spartans. That is my analysis of the 2016 NCAA college basketball tournament. If you have any insight to the teams I don't know anything about, or you just want to comment on my thoughts on the bracket, please write that in the description. No. Write that in the comments. I write in the description. Go there for the college bracket tournament that I'm having. Only 3 days to enter, I believe. Anything else? I don't think so. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a great rest of your day. Bye!